Caregivers, have you ever felt like nothing is going right? Well, cheer up and welcome to Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver radio program, where you'll learn how to avoid that dreaded thing called caregiver burnout and how to survive the grieving process. Join Dave and his guests now as they share practice tips and tools that you can start using immediately to help get you through this day. Now, here's your caregiver host, Dave Nassaney.
From New York and from the Big Apple and from, where else are we from? From Los Angeles. Welcome to all my listeners out there in Radio Land. I am Dave, the Caregiver's Caregiver, coming to you live globally through a bunch of platforms, and along with my lovely co-host, Adrienne Gruberg. Say hello, Adrienne.
Hello.
Yes, Adrienne was feeling a little ill last night. Not last night, last week.
Last week, yes.
So, Adrienne, I hope you're doing better.
I am. Thank you.
Good, good, good. And some of the platforms we're on: iTunes, YouTube, Spreaker, SoundCloud, Vimeo, Stitcher, Blog Talk Radio, Mixcloud, Listen Notes, Blueberry, Player FM, Podcasts.com, VIP Internet Radio, Facebook Live, HealthyLife.net, and CaregiverDave.com. And we're proud to be voted number 2 best podcast out of the top 6 caregiver podcasts by Caring.com. And we have an exciting show planned for you today. A very important person. Don't we, Adrienne? That's so cute to say yes. There we go. It's just I want to take this moment, first of all, to thank last week's guest, Terry Novak, The Decision Doctors. It's Terry's second book, available later this month. It has a companion online course designed for anyone who would like to overcome doubt and improve the quality of their decisions. And see, we're just conquering all caregivers' problems. Last week it was decision-making. This week it's stress. So just a reminder, you can watch or listen to that interview and all our interviews on our membership website, caregiverdave.com, or any of the 16 global networks that I mentioned earlier. All right, enough of that. Our guest today is going to talk about caregiving without stress. Excuse me. Dr. Marvin Marshall is one of America's leading experts in reducing stress that is so prevalent in work, relationships, schools, homes. He's an author, educator, international professional speaker in 25 countries and on 5 continents. Wow, he's got me beat. He demonstrates how to use authority without coercion so relationships are not adversely affected. Now, there's a good lesson. Great lesson for a caregiver. Dr. Marshall, welcome to the show. So excited to have you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me, Dave.
Yes, and why don't you take a minute or two, introduce yourself. I like to ask my question, just who is Dr. Marvin Marshall, and why was he put on this earth? How's that for a question, huh?
Are you asking me?
I am asking you. You are the guest.
To help people reduce their stress, become more happy, and live life more successfully. Because stress is self-induced. That is, we decide whether or not we want to absorb stress or if we want to deflect it. Because nobody can make you do anything. You have always the option. Let me get right to the point by sharing 3 principles that will help anyone reduce stress in any situation. The first one is positivity. The second one is choice. And the third one is reflection. We start with positivity. You can change your emotions by just one word. For example, your supervisor says in the morning, before you leave today, stop in. I want to mention something to you. Now, when I ask in a seminar how many people think the messages are going to be negative, almost all the hands go up. The fact is you are assuming the negative. Most problems occur because of wrong assumptions, which is the first chapter in my book, Live Without Stress. So coming back to the idea, your supervisor says, stop by before you leave today. We think negatively, and that's an assumption. The fact is that he has a compliment for you, but in the meantime, between 9 o'clock in the morning and 5 o'clock in the afternoon when you saw him, you were undergoing anxiety, which was all self-inflicted. You have a choice, basically. If somebody says something to you, how do you want to interpret it? You can interpret it positively or negatively. For example, as I started to say, the supervisor says, stop by my office this afternoon, and you can either say to yourself, your self-talk is, I get to see my supervisor, or I have to see my supervisor. Right. I get to see my supervisor is positive, and it creates endorphins. It makes you feel good. I have to see my supervisor. Just this one word can create anxiety. So the first practice that I suggest people do is think of the positive, since you don't know. Rather than assume negative, think positively. When you want to communicate with somebody, you ask yourself whether or not what I'm going to say to the person is going to be interpreted in a negative way or a positive way. It's very, very simple once you get into the idea of asking yourself, how is this person going to interpret what I'm going to share with him? The second practice is choice. The fact of life is that choice ends when a life ends. We are constantly making choices. We've both made a choice right now by having this communication. Once you have the mindset of realizing that you are constantly and continually making choices, you have a new rubric, so to speak, because you can always choose to make the choice positive or negative, which means you never ever have to be a victim. Victimhood is self-imposed.
Can I stop you for a second?
Yep.
I want, our audience is for burned out caregivers. So first I want to establish a connection with them. Yeah. Have you ever been a caregiver? Just curious.
Not in the sense that professional caregivers have, no.
But I'm sure you've spoken to them, counseled them, etc. So what got you involved in this work of relieving stress from the world? That's a very interesting mission.
Well, it started from my education. I'm primarily an educator, and I have, as far as I can determine, the only discipline program used around the world that is noncoercive.
Wow.
A quick story in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where Ben Franklin had his printing area.
Yeah.
There's a diorama where Ben Franklin is leaning over to King George III of England right after the passage of the Stamp Act. And Franklin says to the king, you cannot coerce people into changing their minds. That's critical. If you want to be effective on almost anything, the way to do it is to be in a non-coercive way. So I'll ask myself if the person I'm talking with is going to interpret this in a negative or a positive way. If he's going to interpret it as if I'm telling him what to do, I'm not going to be successful, because telling has an inference, and that inference is what you're doing is not good enough and you need to change. No one likes to hear that. No one likes to be told what to do. We like to tell other people, but we don't like to be
I don't want to be told what to do.
Right. So what you do is you share information.
So stress, it's really a killer, isn't it?
Absolutely. When we say stress, we're really talking about distress. But so often,
yes,
in our nomenclature, we use the term stress. But when stress affects you through anxiety or fear, it's causing distress. And it's very harmful, not only to the body, but to the mind.
So break it down. Let's say we're in a stressful situation. Let's say our loved one is just acting unappreciative and really bitchy and demanding, and you realize that you've sacrificed your life and this person doesn't appreciate it, and you're starting to feel bitter and you're getting stressed out. What's happening to the body and the mind and the heart? How does it work? How does stress affect us?
The first thing I'd like to do is answer that question. Your first question is how the person is, quote, attacking you. you ask yourself this question: is the person attacking me personally or the situation? And you will quickly conclude that the person is frustrated and is taking it out on you, which means you never take anything personally because the person is frustrated. Now, you can do this with kids as well as people who are caregivers or giving care to people who need assistance. Never take anything personally. You just ask yourself, because chances are with the caregiving people, they will not be able to articulate the answer, that they are frustrated, anxious, and they're taking it out on you. So again, number one, never take anything personally.
Yeah, we have some listeners, and one of them is commenting, saying, being in a state of constant fight or flight is not a real choice.
Not a choice.
Medical systems are not set up to effectively handle daily situations formed from medical illness. If you have money, you get more help and less stress. So, is that true?
No, not in my opinion. And the reason is because of the brain-body connection. Here's how it operates. First comes cognition, always. Now, the cognition comes through our senses, what we see, what we hear, what we touch, what we taste, what we smell. It immediately goes into an area of the brain called the amygdala. And this is where the emotion comes in. The way the brain-body operates is, again, first comes the cognition, immediately followed by an emotion. Now, I have on my website, if I can mention it, withoutstress.com, a strategy to stop this emotion. So, for example, shall I share with you?
Yeah.
Please.
Okay, let's assume you're on the freeway, the highway, and somebody, car cuts in front of you. Now, either road rage can erupt, or if you think about it, you can say to yourself, well, maybe this person is on their way to a hospital and has an emergency. Boom. You immediately stop that emotion. But the strategy is, and you can find this on my website, withoutstress.com, a signal. First comes the red. You stop by taking a gasp of breath. Now, when it's like a yawn. The trigeminal nerves at the base of your jawbone. And if you take a deep gasp of breath, the trigeminal nerves that goes throughout the body diminishes. Then you think of a signal to yellow. You've got options. And then green is you go with your choice. So someone jumps in front of you, instead of getting road rage, you say, well, I think this guy is an emergency, or I think I'll turn on the radio, or what do I do my next vacation? The idea is first comes the cognition, then the emotion. So green, you go with your best choice. So red, take a deep breath, think of your options, yellow, and then go with your best choice. I think I'll turn on the radio. Yeah. You can stop an emotion because the way the brain-body connection works, again, the cognition always comes first, followed by an emotion. But there's an instant where you can reflect that natural emotion by what you think and your decisions.
Yeah, Deborah Regis, that's who's talking. She's laughing. She's saying, I will take someone cutting me off any time, 100,000 times a day. But she talks about with dementia, it becomes a constant personal attack on the closest person.
Yes.
So we're talking about someone who's not in their right mind, right, Adrienne?
Yeah, I mean, that's really what I wanted to say.
It wears you down.
In this situation, there's not a lot of choice in terms of, okay, I'm with someone who's got dementia. I'm with someone who has cancer. I'm with someone
post-traumatic
stress or had a stroke or whatever. This is something that I did not choose.
Yeah, or autism.
Or children, of course. Parents taking care of children with mental problems. It's very difficult, and it's not as though there's even time to
take the breath,
have what your considerations are, and choose not to respond. Now, I mean, I've been in a situation with angry people, and I've prepped myself going into it knowing how I want to behave. But when it comes at you from somebody that lives with you almost 24 hours a day, it builds up.
See, we've got
So
tough questions and tough problems here, Doctor, and so we need tough answers.
Let me ask you this. Is the person capable enough to answer a question?
Not necessarily.
But
what kind of question?
Any kind of questions. The reason why I ask is this: a normal conversation, the person who asks the question controls the conversation. You can prove this to yourself. For example, if you're having a conversation with somebody and all of a sudden the other person asks you a question, chances are you don't continue on a monologue. You stop and answer the person's question. So the thing to keep in mind is, if you want to be in control, you ask the question. Not telling, which is coercive. And so if the person is cognitively efficient enough to answer a question, you can ask something such as, are you angry at me or at a situation? Now what you've done is, by asking the question, the person stops and reflects. You can control other people, but you can't change them, and the objective is to have them change themselves. And the most efficient approach to do this is to ask a question which will prompt them to reflect. Just by asking the question, you've changed their emotions because they need to stop and answer the question.
That's a great answer.
I understand what you're saying, but when you have a dementia patient or an Alzheimer's patient who's not capable of giving that answer, I mean, you can come into the room and say, it can start your day beautifully, say, isn't it a great day today? And either be met with silence or anger, or physical anger, or, and this is what comes at you constantly.
May I give you another solution? The first one is to ask the question. If that doesn't work, you redirect the conversation. You change the conversation. And the reason for that is the way the brain-body operates together is, as I mentioned, cognition comes first, followed by an emotion. You cannot change an emotion. One should never say to someone, you shouldn't feel that way. The emotion is there. There's only one way to change that emotion, and that is through redirection. Because, again, the cognition always comes before the emotion. And you can prove this to yourself. Just by, you see something that's horrible, and it gives you a negative emotion. You see something beautiful, what a beautiful day, and it prompts a positive emotion. Cognition always precedes emotion. You cannot change emotion. The only thing you can do is to redirect the attention because the emotion follows.
Yeah.
I could do what you're talking about when I was taking care of my husband, because he was totally there. If I didn't like the way he answered me sometimes, of course, I understood that someone who knows he's dying of cancer might be a little short-tempered for a reason. He's not mad at me. He's mad at the disease, but it comes at me. And even though I know it, it's still very hurtful.
Yes, and very hard. However, you're missing the main point. And the main point is you are accepting it by your self-talk and by what you are listening to. You can change your feelings by changing your thought process. Emotion, let me put it this way. The type of emotion we're talking about is self-inflicted. All emotion basically is self-inflicted. You have a choice to accept something or not to accept something. So this is the reason why you never have to be a victim, regardless of the situation. And the reason is you can always choose your reaction. Regardless of the situation you cannot change, something that stimulates you or the urge, you always have the choice of how you can react. Again, choice ends when life ends. And so if you ask yourself, your mental thinking is, okay, how am I going to react to this? If you realize you have a choice of your reaction, you never need to feel like you're a victim. Nobody
That's true.
does.
I got that. Yeah.
Victimhood is a choice.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I do get that. It's
The bottom line is, Adrienne,
Yeah, go ahead.
if it's that bad, then you
Yeah.
need to start considering a facility, because you're
Yes.
just sacrificing your life for theirs. And, you might be the type of person who don't like confrontation, don't like to say no, don't like to make decisions, paralysis by analysis. And it's time, I think, if you're dealing with these kinds of issues, that you can't handle this anymore. These people make promises to their loved ones. I'll never put you in a nursing home. Well, that's a suicide request,
yeah.
You should instead change it to, hey, I renege on that deal. Now the promise is I will give you the best care available.
Right.
And right now, I cannot give you the best care available because I'm at my wit's end. You need 24-hour supervision. You're getting up in the middle of the night. You're wandering. You're violent. You need to be sedated. Can't do it. And there's a time where that has to happen.
I can't care for you properly anymore.
Right.
That's the choice. Yeah.
And what you do is you ask yourself a simple question. If the roles were reversed, what would my partner want for me? Would my partner want me to undergo that stress?
Right. I wouldn't want to put anyone I love through that. But they're not in their right mind. So
But they're not in their right mind, and
that's the whole purpose.
What you need.
I was going to say that's the whole purpose of advanced directives, to make decisions when they can no longer.
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
You have to ask yourself, if they were in their, quote, right mind, unquote, which is a very negative phrase, what would they want? And they would want you not to undergo stress. If the roles were reversed, they would not want you to go through what you're going through.
Well, this is a good place to take a break. So hold that thought, and we'll be right back. Don't go away.
One Arm, One Leg, 100 Words by Dave Nassaney is the book that helps you overcome and perhaps even prevent the hardships associated with strokes. Dave takes you on his journey and experience with his own wife Charlene, a stroke survivor. This book tells you everything about strokes to help you and your loved ones survive without making costly mistakes that may save a life or a brain from irreparable damage. One Arm, One Leg, 100 Words. The book is available on Amazon.com or order it from fine bookstores everywhere.
Okay, so you have a couple of days off, and you're planning to get away from stress. You may be planning to go across the world, or even taking a staycation around town. Well, Hotels.com can get you a room in over 158,000 hotels, 60 countries, for 50% off. That's reducing stress already. Plus, collect 10 nights, and you'll get 1 night free. And there's no cancellation charges, no change fees. For the best deals, even last-minute deals, visit HealthyLife.net's advertiser page and click on Hotels.com.
Guilt, fear, loneliness, burnout. These are just some of the things caregivers feel. But now there's hope. CaregiverDave.com is a membership website with an understanding community designed around supporting you. With a little perspective, planning, and practical help, you can become a thriving caregiver. Start by visiting CaregiverDave.com. Get weekly calls, practical solutions, and free resources. Plus, when you sign up, you'll get a 30-minute coaching call free. Don't wait. Go to CaregiverDave.com and join now.
Audiobooks gives you instant access to over 50,000 of the best sellers and hottest book titles in romance, mystery, fiction, and many other genres. Just visit HealthyLife.net's advertiser page and click on Audiobooks to get started.
Reclaim your caregiver sanity with Dave Nassaney's book, It's My Life Too. Caring for someone with an illness or condition who is expected to live for a relatively long period of time is a specific and unique challenge. This book pinpoints the needs and strategies a caregiver must do for themselves in order to survive, thrive, and make caregiving a rewarding, gratifying experience. So get your copy of It's My Life Too today, or buy one for your special caregiver. It's My Life Too is available at Amazon.com and CaregiverDave.com.
You're listening to HealthyLife.net. Millions of listeners know the secret. Now you do too. Positive talk 24 hours a day, every day.
Dave Nassaney, the Caregiver's Caregiver, has just released his 6th book entitled It's My Life Too. Reclaim your caregiver sanity by learning when to say yes and when to say no. It was specifically written for caregivers who know they should be putting their needs first, but just don't know how. Dave is the sole caregiver to his wife, Charlene, since 1996. He knows firsthand what caregivers are going through, because he is one. And he now speaks all across the country, offering caregivers his incredible caregiver support package. Even the airlines tell us that in the event of an emergency, to put your oxygen mask on first, before you help your child with their mask. They know that those who don't heed their advice often black out, thus becoming unable to help either themselves or their child. And caregivers are exactly the same way. It's My Life Too. Reclaim your caregiver sanity by learning when to say yes and when to say no. Will help caregivers who are neglecting their sleep, diet, and social life, and learn to put their needs first. Pick up your copy today, or buy one for your special caregiver. On sale everywhere, and at caregiverscaregiver.com. We're back with Adrienne Gruberg and Dr. Marvin Marshall. And thank you, Deborah, for those comments and directing the conversation. That was very productive. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I want to mention, I love that commercial. I love your book. It's
thank you so much. I'm writing my 4th one now about Dave's hammock wisdom, because I get a lot of wisdom when I lay on the hammock. And I thought 18 months ago, I said, I'm being so selfish, just keeping all this wisdom to myself. I want to share it, so I started these videos.
Oh, he's being so selfish.
So selfish. Selfish caregiver. And so the videos are very popular, very successful. I got over 100 of them, but a lot of people aren't on Facebook. A lot of people aren't on YouTube or the internet. So I got to put it in printed form. So I thought it'd be easy to just transpose them into words, but it is so much harder to take what we say, in slang and all the and everything, and then to polish it up for book form. It's much harder.
Editing is not easy.
It's a different medium, right? and of course, the trick behind good writing is editing.
Yep.
Absolutely. And when you think it's ready, edit it again.
That's right.
Until you're sick of your book.
I never want to get
sick of reading it.
And then you have to turn it over to somebody else with fresh eyes.
Yes. So what's the relationship between stress and cancer? What happens to the body when stress, how does because I heard that we all have cancer cells, right? So what makes the cancer cells go wild?
Well, I'm not a medical physician. However, you can do all kinds of searches and see how your mental state, your mental attitude can facilitate getting cancer.
Yeah.
Then there are stories of people who have had cancer by using a very positive approach, including comedy, where your endorphins arise. Yeah. And proper diet, of course. In part is because you are what you eat, which is an old quotation, but it's true. I know one person who was getting really, really sick, and she decided whatever the story is, she's going to not eat sugar, because sugar really is a poison to the human body. And she recovered magnificently.
Really?
Of course, I'm on a low sugar.
Yes.
I'll partake of sugar on an occasion, but sugar's not in my regular diet.
Me either.
The first 3 words of my diet, my 12-word diet program, is eat real food.
Yep.
So that helps me. I'm going to take a look at a dessert or whatever it is. If it's not real food, it's easy for me to say to myself, hey, Marv, that's not real food, and I won't partake of it.
Or food that's alive and not dead. Can we eliminate stress completely in the world? Is that a possible goal, or is that impossible?
No, it will never happen. and one reason why it won't and should not happen is that stress can be very positive in one's life. So, for example, if you didn't have any stress, chances are you wouldn't get out of bed in the morning. You'd stay there. I mean, why would you get out of bed? Your mental mind, your mindset is, hey, if I want to have breakfast, or if I want to go to the bathroom, or if I want to earn a living, I better get out of bed.
Yeah.
So usually, well, as I mentioned, when we talk about when we say stress, we really mean distress. Distress is very unhealthy and can, as many experiments or research has shown, can prompt cancer.
That's why they say when you have to go to the bathroom, you should relieve yourself.
Very good. Very good.
So that you're not distressed anymore. So caregivers experience a whole lot of stress, maybe even more than the average person.
Definitely
maybe
more
I
than
should
the average
cross
person.
out the word maybe. Even more than the average
Yeah.
person. How can, we spoke about some of this, but how can they reduce their stress? I mean, are there exercises? Are there foods? Are there, what?
It starts with, number one, getting a good night's sleep.
Yes.
Sleep.
Yeah, they only get 2 to 3 hours sleep a night, caregivers. That's the statistic.
Right, except for the fact that my mother-in-law, for example, who lived to be over 100, said that she couldn't sleep. Well, my wife inherited it, and my wife is not a good sleeper, but over a 24-hour period, she'll get about 6 to 7 hours sleep. Not all at one time in bed. But okay, so as long as you get sufficient sleep. Secondly, food.
So you can catch up on sleep. Somebody told me you can't. I disagree.
I totally agree with you. You can. Right. It's better, of course, if you are disciplined and your body is disciplined enough to go to bed at the same time every day and get up at the same time. That's going to be best for your body. But yes, you need to get enough sleep. You need to eat the proper foods. I have a 12-word diet, which starts with eat real food. If it's not real food, then I then am empowered to resist it. Thirdly, you got to have a positive outlook.
Go backwards. Is pizza real food?
No.
No, it's not. It's full of carbohydrate, which turns into sugar.
You see, pizza dough is made from flour.
How about gluten-free pizza dough?
Processed.
Is there any way to make a pizza real food?
No.
Well, Oprah would say yes. You make a cauliflower crust.
Yeah, but see, the crust itself is manufactured. Look, there are some things in life that you need to give up.
Yep.
Smoking.
Drinking.
I smoked cigars for 35 years, and my tongue started to get tender, and I said, Marv, this is a warning to you. You better stop.
Yeah.
And so I did. The same thing when I stopped smoking cigarettes years and years ago. You learn, to me, learning ends when life ends. I'm continually learning. As much as I think I know, it's amazing every day I'll learn something new. And to me, that's one of the beautiful parts about living. Living is so much more enjoyable when I'm learning.
Yeah, me too.
And so,
Constantly. You grow.
Eat well, sleep well, or at least sleep.
All right.
Yes.
Well, here's a question.
Exercise. Let me mention one other thing.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about the exercise.
Right. The human body was not made to sit in front of a computer. The human body was made for movement. And so even though I'm sitting in front of a computer now, as soon as this interview is over, I'm going to stand and stretch. I'll stretch on a regular basis. I do aerobic exercise.
Let's all stretch right now. Let's just stand up.
That's right. That's smart. That's good for your body.
That feels so good.
Yeah, it does. It feels good.
Go ahead, Adrienne. You have permission.
I did. I just stretched up out of my chair. I didn't stretch my arms out yet, but...
All right. Go ahead. Sorry I interrupted.
No, that's very important. I mean, you can just move your toes and move your feet, move your arms. The idea is that the human body was made for movement, and so facilitate what the human body was designed for. That's not sitting still, not being stationary. I mean, when you get older, for example, one of the first things that goes is your balance. Well, really? So what you can do is periodically, stand on one leg. You may want to be near a wall or something, but you can practice so that when you get older and you're about to fall, you can catch yourself. If you don't have good muscle tone, chances are you may fall and have to have your hip replaced, which is so often with older people.
You're a smart guy. How'd you get so smart?
I don't know. My father says I was born with wisdom. I have got no idea. Absolutely not.
Marv's hammock wisdom. Okay.
Now, I have balance problems. I had a knee replacement and a second knee operation. And there are balance problems. It is one of the most frustrating things in the world. I mean, I have a few different exercises that I can do that really do help with my balance. But feeling off balance makes you feel off balance with the rest of your life, too.
Yeah.
So therefore, you ask yourself, what can I do?
Right.
Maybe walking with a cane. When I go downstairs, be sure to hang on to the railing. Which is, let me mention something which I think you'll find interesting. The human body is made so that when you develop a pattern, it runs by itself. So, for example, if you learn how to ride a bike when you're 12 and you don't ride a bike for 40 years, you can get on a bike and you can still ride it. There are certain things in life that come natural, and that if you interfere with them, it causes a problem. For example, if you stand at the top of a set of stairs and you think of walking down by putting one foot in front of the other, you have undergone... You have made something that should be natural, unnatural, and you'll start to trip.
Undermined.
Right, because walking down a flight of stairs should be naturally. If I can go on a tangent, the same thing happens with people who stutter. So when you're first learning how to talk, you mumble, you mix words, you repeat yourself, and if you call attention to it, you're going to have a problem. So, for example, our daughter has really beautiful articulation, except when she came to the S. And so she must have been maybe 2.5 or 3 years old, and I corrected her. For the next week, every time she came to an S, she stopped to make it perfect. Perfection is something a human being should never try to get to, because you cannot learn and be perfect at the same time. So we saw the first stage in Hillary's stuttering. We never called attention to it again, and she has beautiful articulation, beautiful speech. There are certain things in life, like walking downstairs, learning how to talk, that are natural, and you don't call attention to them, because if you do, you're going to have a problem.
Well, everything is like that. The feedback of the rocket ships going to the moon, they're never on course. They're always correcting. They're going to the left, going to the right. I'm a sailor, and we're always correcting. If I miss Catalina Island, man, next land I hit is Antarctica. So, course correction,
I'll tell you what the big difficulty is. in gravity. The Polaris missile, the missile is taking off, half of its exertion, half of its energy is getting 100 yards off the ground, getting away from this pull of gravity. And so when we form habits, the biggest challenge is getting ourselves out of that habit. And it takes a lot of concentration and a lot of discipline. But so often we just do things because we've always done it before. It's the old idea that we make our habits and then our habits make us.
Yeah. And is it true it takes 21 days to break one or start a new one?
Well, at least 7 days, 7 times. Of course, it all depends on what the habit is. But if your self-talk is, I'm strong enough, I'm self-disciplined enough to break this habit, you can do it because you're empowering yourself through positivity and choice. And the point is, when you see yourself doing it again, you're going to reflect, I fell into the habit again, I'm going to do it over again. So these 3 principles of positivity, choice, and reflection can literally be a rubric for making your life so much more happy.
Listen, we're going to take another break. Don't go away. We will be right back.
One Arm, One Leg, 100 Words by Dave Nassaney is the book that helps you overcome and perhaps even prevent the hardships associated with strokes. Dave takes you on his journey and experience with his own wife, Charlene, a stroke survivor. This book tells you everything about strokes to help you and your loved ones survive without making costly mistakes that may save a life or a brain from irreparable damage. One Arm, One Leg, 100 Words. The book is available on Amazon.com or order it from fine bookstores everywhere.
Okay, so you have a couple of days off, and you're planning to get away from stress. You may be planning to go across the world, or even taking a staycation around town. Well, Hotels.com can get you a room in over 158,000 hotels, 60 countries, for 50% off. That's reducing stress already. Plus, collect 10 nights, and you'll get 1 night free. And there's no cancellation charges, no change fees. For the best deals, even last-minute deals, visit HealthyLife.net's advertiser page and click on Hotels.com.
Guilt, fear, loneliness, burnout. These are just some of the things caregivers feel. But now there's hope. CaregiverDave.com is a membership website with an understanding community designed around supporting you. With a little perspective, planning, and practical help, you can become a thriving caregiver. Start by visiting CaregiverDave.com. Get weekly calls, practical solutions, and free resources. Plus, when you sign up, you'll get a 30-minute coaching call free. Don't wait. Go to caregiverdave.com and join now.
Audiobooks gives you instant access to over 50,000 of the best sellers and hottest book titles in romance, mystery, fiction, and many other genres. Just visit HealthyLife.net's advertiser page and click on Audiobooks to get started.
Reclaim your caregiver sanity with Dave Nassaney's book, It's My Life Too. Caring for someone with an illness or condition who is expected to live for a relatively long period of time is a specific and unique challenge. This book pinpoints the needs and strategies a caregiver must do for themselves in order to survive, thrive, and make caregiving a rewarding, gratifying experience. So get your copy of It's My Life Too today, or buy one for your special caregiver. It's My Life Too is available at Amazon.com and CaregiverDave.com.
You're listening to HealthyLife.net. Millions of listeners know the secret. Now you do too. Positive talk 24 hours a day, every day.
We are a community of caregivers that understands and supports you wherever you are in your journey. We are a place to connect with other caregivers, but more importantly, a place to get practical, actionable help. There are lots of ways for you to get support. First of all, you can download our welcome pack. This will get you started on your Thrive journey. Next, you can ask and get answers to your questions by posting them here in our private Facebook groups. You can also get live online support by attending one of our live weekly Connect webinars. You can get practical, actionable advice by listening to our weekly podcast. You can hear and read other stories about other caregivers' experiences. Plus, add your own in our weekly Share Your Story forum, posted every Tuesday in the Facebook group. You can access essential resources and download practical Thrive Solutions packs, all of which are geared to help you thrive as a caregiver. You get lifetime access to all of our resources. Again, we're here to support you and help you thrive and to enjoy your life as a caregiver. And remember, this is a place to get hope, not just cope.
And we're back.
Good, you are good.
Thank you. I had a lot of help.
You make a real
I wasn't always this way. We're back with Dr. Marshall, and Adrienne Gruberg from the Caregiver Space, and I'm Dave Nassaney from CaregiverDave.com, and we're talking about stress, that terrible, terrible thing. But it can be a positive thing. It can get you out of bed in the morning and get you to the bathroom. So everyone has stress. All we can hope to do is to reduce the negative parts of the stress that gets us sick and so on. Now, I have a question. If we've been living with stress for like 40 years, like some of us, you see some people, I'm 65, I see some people who's 65, man, they look like hell. They look like they're 80, their faces are just wrinkled, they smoke, they drink, they don't get a lot of rest. I mean, it looks like life has been hard on them. Is it too late to reverse the effects of stress on some of these people?
You can't reverse it totally, but you can certainly diminish the harm that it causes on you, on your mental condition, and on your physical body. So you can't reverse. Well, I'm sort of hesitating because there are people who, through proper diet and through proper exercise, and through a positive outlook on their lives, have truly changed their life physically as well as mentally. So I don't want to negate the fact that you cannot improve your physical body or your mental body because you have stress. As I mentioned earlier, one of the enjoyments to me about living is learning. And you can always learn daily, and you can always learn, I believe, to improve yourself. I think that it was Julie Andrews who I used to quote, who said, I love discipline because it sets me free. A person who is disciplined has less stress than a person who is not disciplined. And I'll tell you the trick. It's very, very simple. The trick is to develop a procedure. So, for example, you're looking for your car keys. Well, if you had a procedure, when you go into your house and you put your car keys down at a particular place, you will always know where they are. People who live their lives on procedures live a much less stressful life.
Or what's the word? Some people call them systems.
Mm-hmm.
So
procedures are systems.
Yeah.
Right.
So tell us some success stories. You've been in business for a long time doing this. What's the best success story that you've told? As a coach, when people take my advice, they get better. And when they don't, they don't.
Yeah.
And then they come back a year later and say, I'm still dealing with this. Well, did you do what I told you a year ago? I said, no, it's gotten worse. I says, hello, McFly.
Let me answer your question with a story, true story, of course. First, I suggest that anyone who's interested in basically what I've contributed, go to Google and search for levels of development. Levels of development. They will come up, two of them will come up on the very top row of a Google search, levels of development. And basically what I teach there are two levels. I refer to them as A and B, as behaviors, and they are not appropriate and irresponsible. Levels C and D refer to cooperation, conformity, and D, democracy. Democracy is taking the initiative to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Quick story. A woman called me. She says, Marv, I just had this experience. I feel almost obliged to call you. So that's why you're getting this this phone call from me. She says, I came back from the market, got to my car, and I saw lime in my hand for 10 cents. I didn't want to go back for 10 cents, but I knew the levels of development. I knew it was the right thing to do, so I went to the nearest cashier, told her what I had done, gave her the dime. Of course, the cashier thanked me, and then she said, I cannot express how great I felt doing the right thing simply because it was the right thing to do. Most of us live our lives on level C, cooperation, conformity. To have a civil society, we must operate on level C. But especially with young people and even with adults, there will be a time when you can take the initiative to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And once young people understand the difference between external motivation, getting a good grade, or working hard to get a good grade, external, versus putting forth effort because I know it's going to be good for me and good for other people.
Yeah,
once you understand the difference between external and internal motivation, you have a rubric for running your life. She says, and my point is, you'll never get the personal satisfaction, the highest reward anybody can get from cooperation or from conformity. You'll do it because you put in your best effort and you did the right thing because it was the right thing to do.
That's right. That's right. We don't teach that in our schools anymore, unfortunately. That's what made America, truly great over the first 250 years or however long we've been doing what we're doing, because we were taught that, what you just said.
So, again, just Google levels of development and take a look at it.
That's interesting. Well, we're running out of time. How do we contact you if people want to learn more, read your books? You're going to write a book on caregiving soon, right?
The easiest way is my website, easy to remember, withoutstress.com. Withoutstress.com. There are tips for living without stress, for teaching without stress, for parenting without stress, and it's all free. I mean, if you wanted to purchase any of my books, you could. I have a stress management video on YouTube that comes out once a month. There are about 68 up there now. I just have this desire to help people enjoy life more, and if you can reduce your stress, you'll enjoy life more.
Awesome. Adrienne, how do we get a hold of the Caregiver Space and Adrienne Gruberg? I can't hear you. Are you muted? Yes, you're muted.
Muted because I was coughing.
Oh, okay.
Adrienne at thecaregiverspace.org, and the Facebook page and everything else are linked from there, and there are forums and there are conversations and there are articles and blogs. So it's a good resource.
So, Doctor, we have just a few more minutes for you to give us one last takeaway. If they don't remember anything you said today, what do you want them to walk away with that they should not forget?
That they always have a choice of everything they do. And if they want to live a more happy life, make your choice in a positive way. That is, do that. Just think of how can I make this decision that I need to make a positive one. The three, again, principles: positivity, you always have a choice, and you can control people, including yourself, but the way to change them is through reflection, by the questions that you ask.
That's true, and I like what you said about getting cut off. And normally, I mean, I know a lot of people, I'm sure you do, and Adrienne does, where you just get them behind the wheel and they become a different person. They're in competition, they're in the Indy 500, and if somebody cuts you off, man, you can see the veins popping out of their neck and they start getting red. And I know one guy, this is the God's honest truth, he's an officer, he was off duty, and he stopped at an off-ramp. This guy with anger management issues. And the car in front of him, was texting or something, and the light turned green, and he didn't move. And he waited like a whole 3 seconds.
Oh,
he got out of his car. He didn't honk. He got out of his car. He marched over that door. He banged on the window, and he grabbed the guy by the shirt, and he said, "The light is green."
That's great.
Okay.
Yeah. So it is.
I like what you said. If somebody cuts you off, maybe their wife is in the back seat laying down, you can't see her, and she's giving birth and the head is crowning. We just don't think about these things. Give the other person the benefit of the doubt. Even the Bible says, treat others the way you would want to be treated, and give people the benefit of the doubt, right?
Right. Correct. Again,
everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Right?
Again, there's so much more on my website, withoutstress.com, Dave, if I can say that, which I just
absolutely.
did.
And it's free. And if they want to buy a book, they can buy a book too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that's it. You did an awesome job, Doctor. I don't know if this is your first video cast. Probably not, because you give them yourselves, right?
Is there any way that I can get a copy of this?
Oh, I think for a price we can send you a copy. No, I'm kidding. We'll give it to you free. If you're giving all your stuff away free, we'll give you it free.
Thanks very much.
Anyway, we'll give you the audio and the video version.
Great.
And I'll even, I don't like to pass around the Facebook Live version because it's, it's unedited and there's some mistakes, and between the commercials there's a gap and stuff like that. So again, we'll meet you next week, and everybody else, thank you for tuning in, and we appreciate you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Caregivers Caregiver radio program with Dave Nassaney.